Hello, once again, it's time for the old Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, CW. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to hit that bell on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Today, we're talking about a couple wrestling things because I couldn't come up with a definitive topic for today. So I wanted to touch on a couple different things. Number one, Mercedes Moné, a.k.a. Sasha Banks, finally made her return to pro wrestling and AEW after a lengthy hiatus due to injury. I think the last time she was seen was in New Japan. She made her debut on, was it a Big Business? Is that what it was called? Dynamite, AEW Dynamite, and basically laid claim to I think it was the TBS Championship and it's just good to see Mercedes Moné back in business, the CEO, the boss. I like the fact that one thing I love about professional wrestling is that to take like two steps back, WWE has or had this kind of stranglehold on gimmicks, right? They really, really wanted each individual wrestler to be tied to WWE in a way that WWE can own their entire image and make all the money off of it. It's basically, it's a money grab. That's why Braun Breaker, which is a name I really hate, it has two K's in it because they can own that name, right? They can own the name Braun Breaker. It's theirs, whatever. There is not a movement, but when you look at something like Up, Up, Down, Down and Xavier Woods, he's been very vocal about owning your own name so that when you leave the company, you have a name that you can make money off of. So when he has wrestlers on Up, Up, Down, Down, he says, what's your Up, Up, Down, Down name? What's your alias? So you have something you can make some money off of when you leave. And most people don't use it in that fashion, but Austin Creed is his name outside of wrestling, outside of WWE. So he can use that if he ever leaves. He can be Austin Creed or whatever. Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Moné, I forgot her, she had a different moniker before that. The idea of her being the boss and then moving on to another company, can't use that name, can't use Sasha Banks, so she goes by the CEO. I love that sort of pivot. It's surface level, right? It's not super different. She could it's just as quick and easy to remember as the boss. She could have went in a very different direction and said like the executive or something, but she didn't. And she's now, making money, big business, dollar signs. She's the whole nine. I get it. And it's good. Again, it's good to see her back. I'm interested to see how she moves the needle for AEW because AEW has Tony Khan feels like a wrestling figure collector, right? You wait and you go figure hunting, you go out, and when you see a figure you like, you're like, oh my God, I gotta grab that, right? You check the stores, you see what stock they have, and sometimes you'll find a gem, you'll pick it up, and you'll add it to your collection. And with every kind of collection like that, the shine of the figure, the excitement around that figure usually comes when you get them. And then you put them in your collection and then they become one of many. That's how I feel Tony Khan is with ex-WWE wrestlers. He grew up loving the product. He sees these stars from WWE and he's like, I need them on my team. And then he collects them. And that initial like pop of them showing up on an AEW program is incredible. Like Edge going to AEW broke my brain. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was like, what happened to Edge? Where's my man? What happened? I don't watch AEW regularly, but I do keep up with what, Christian and Edge are doing. And then I hadn't seen him for a bit. And I was like, what happened to Ed? And he obviously resurfaced. But you can say the same thing for every, hyped wrestler that comes out of WWE and goes to AEW. You can see that trend. They get, really big, really hyped, and then they just kind of peter out and fade away. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Mercedes. I'm just saying, how does her pickup, which is a very high profile pickup for the promotion, how does that position AEW? How does it position their women's division, right? Something that fans have claimed has been lacking. They don't, give it enough time. They don't give it enough shine. How does she move that needle, right? I don't know. I'm still waiting to see Tony Khan really come into his own with booking. So hopefully her sort of journey and her pedigree will help motivate the booking of not only the women's division, but just the stars that he has in his pocket. I think I was going to bring up Miro, the Redeemer, which was a fantastic angle that kind of faded away and they haven't really done anything with him, but apparently he's been having, issues at home. So maybe that's something, but there's just so many ex-WWE stars who are in AEW that I don't really know too much about. Like even Dean Ambrose and Claudio, they are high profile dudes, but I don't like, again, I'm going to stop right there because I don't know enough about AEW to make these claims. All I can say is hopefully the boss, aka the CEO, makes an impact, makes a splash, moves the needle for that company. I also read that there's a likelihood that Shelton Benjamin might make his way to AEW. Now, there are very few wrestlers who can make me watch a product, like a single wrestler. I'll watch matches with Shelton Benjamin. That is one of the most underrated athletes in professional wrestling. You know what? He might not be the most underrated, but he's certainly the most underutilized. Shelton Benjamin had, in my experience, he wasn't a great promo, but he was a good promo, but he was incredible in the ring. And the older he got, the better he got. And I see Shelton Benjamin a lot like a Randy Orton, where he kind of refined his he refined his wrestling style to be very deliberate. And he's one of those guys where I'm like, you need like a really kick-ass signature move and he'll put you over the top, because you can get good at the promo. He's already fantastic at the wrestling. So if he has a bit of a reinvention going into, as long as he stays away from the gold hair, if he has a bit of reinvention going into AEW and they insert him into, interesting angles, perhaps against a Dean Ambrose and a Claudio, those types of things are going to, in my opinion, move the needle. I'll say if AEW wants one more viewer to watch, bring on Shelton Benjamin and do something interesting with him, and I'll be in there. The man, I was saying a couple months before he was unceremoniously released from WWE, I was saying they need to utilize that man more because he needed a belt. I needed him in the main event picture, something, I needed him at WrestleMania, making an impact, making a splash. On that note, Cedric Alexander is now teamed with Ashanti the Adonis. I think that's how you say his name. And they've had a couple vignettes on SmackDown, so I'm waiting to see how Cedric Alexander capitalizes on his new opportunity away from Shelton Benjamin. That's today's Ramblin' Wrestling episode. Thank you so much for listening. How do you like Mercedes Moné's debut on Dynamite? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what you'd like to hear on this podcast. Thank you so much for listening once again. I appreciate you, and don't you ever forget.
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.